What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is Vocab Malone. Welcome to Street Apologists Live here. Thursday, June 1st, 2023, about 7:47 p.m. Pacific Time in Phoenix, Arizona. This is a Christian urban apologetics program where we serve the underserved and look into the overlooked. Tonight, we're going to be discussing an encyclopedia which has entries on a variety of what are termed radical or extremist groups, even hate groups is sometimes used. And in this book, which is an academic resource, we have several new entries that include Hebrew Israelites. So we're going to talk about it today.
How many roads? Too many signs, I can't read them. Wouldn't recognize the turn even if I seen it. Been driving all along, feel like I'm dreaming. Okay.
What's up? How y'all doing? Make sure that you like this video, subscribe to this channel. Make sure you leave a comment in the live chat. To leave a comment, you do got to be subscribed, but it'll let you in after a few minutes. And be sure to leave a comment, not just in the live chat, but underneath as well. So with that, let's go. We like to try to keep things, we try to keep abreast of things in relationships, in relationship to academia and Hebrew Israelism. Now, there's different groups, different new religious movements out there, as you all know. And we can't keep track of them all. There's all types of groups, organizations. We don't keep track of everybody. That's not what we do. When I say keep track, I mean just a general sense of what's going on, as we should do in our role as urban apologists, as Christians, who are like Ezekiel of old from Ezekiel chapter 1, and act as watchmen, and indeed watchwomen, even though you wouldn't have had watchwomen literally on the wall blowing the trumpet to sound the alarm back then, but understanding the role of the church here. And one interesting development is a book that I've had my eye on now for a while. The book came out in 2019, so it's not brand new. It's just that I had to decide if I was going to finally pull the trigger and buy it. So finally did. So here we go. I'm going to show you the book, and then we're going to look at the entries tonight on the Hebrew Israelites. So what this program is going to do for you tonight is to show you what non-Christian scholars say about Hebrew Israelism. It's going to show you the way that they think of this, the way they process it. So we're not here to co-sign everything they say. We're not here just to be sensationalistic and say, oh, look, they said it, therefore it's true. We're not going to do that. But we are going to look at this, find out what they got right, find out what they got wrong. And I'm hoping that some of the people who are actually mentioned in this book would join us later tonight. I'm working on it. Barry J. Ballock, Hate Groups and Extremist Organizations in America, an encyclopedia. And yes, it does feature the Klan on the front. Let me read the back here about the author. Not about the whole thing, but the author. I think you, audience, will find this interesting. So check this out. This is the person who wrote this book that has several Hebrew Israelite groups mentioned in its pages. Barry J. Ballock, Ph.D., is professor and chair of the Department of Political Science and International Studies at Georgia Southern University. So that's somewhat prestigious. It's not Princeton or Harvard, but it's something. For the past 20 years, he has also directed the university's Model United Nations program, one of the oldest programs of its kind. He has published in journals such as Politics and Policy and Peace Psychology Review. His most recent books are Prager's Allegiance to Liberty, The Changing Face of Patriots, Militias, and Political Violence in America, and ABC CLIOs, that's the publishing company, Modern American Extremism and Domestic Terrorism, an encyclopedia of extremists and extremist groups. So that's the book we're talking about. That's the author. So this is not a Christian apologist. In fact, you're going to see some of his entries, but actually cast Christians in a certain kind of light. So let's open up this book here. This is a very expensive book, at least for my taste. I think if you want it, it's going to cost you $75, this encyclopedia. This is intended to be an academic resource. Now you see, you go to A. So here I am on the entries, right? What do we see here? Advanced White Society. American Christian Dixie Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. All right. American Nationalist Association, American Nazi Party, American Patriot Party, American Vikings, America's Promise Ministries, the Army of God, the Aryan Brotherhood, the Aryan Nationalist Alliance, the Aryan Nations Worldwide, the Aryan Renaissance Society, the Aryan Strike Force, the Aryan Terror Brigade. Whew. Then you come to B, and you see Brotherhoods of Clans, Bureau of American Islamic Relations, Black Nationalism, Black Muslims, and you see Black Hebrew Israelites. That's their wording, okay? That's his wording. Let's go to the first entry. Later on, I'm going to show the PDF on the screen. So I want to get your guys' perspective on this. In fact, I may even open up the lines to see if you guys can jump on. Shout out to Mr. Phil Fox, subscribe to his channel. Shout out to Miss Titus Sue in the live chat, subscribe to her channel. She's blowing things up on TikTok and other places. Shout out to D New, shout out to Warrior Woman, PJ Williams. How y'all doing? Come on in, come through. Good to see y'all. And remember, become a Patreon, patreon.com/vocab. And remember, order that shirt. See that shirt in the background? vocabmalone.com. Grab that shirt. And remember, send super chats. Okay, let's go to the very first one, which is in the 60s. I'm sorry, the page references is what I mean by that. And it says simply, Black Hebrew Israelites. So I'm going to read the entry as it says, okay? Black Hebrew Israelites, BHI, consist of individuals, groups, and organizations that believe that African Americans and other people of color, e.g., example given, Hispanics, Latinos, and Native Americans are, quote, descendants of a lost tribe of ancient Israelites, end quote. Okay, so this is the book. It's already got a little bit of an oversight here. Because if you notice, it gives the One West definition, and I'm going to use their language, okay? This is not usually what I say. It gives the One West definition of Black Hebrew Israelite because it says they're people who believe that other people of color besides Black Americans. Now, if they met people, say, for example, perhaps on the African continent, for example, then they might have a point. But it's only, we got to rephrase everything here, One Westers that hold to that chart, and the chart's the idea where you get that Hispanics, Latinos, Native Americans also would be included as Hebrew Israelites. So they kind of give the One West definition here right in the beginning, if you notice that. So I noticed something else that's interesting. It's got an article cited by Joe Carter. I'm familiar with this article by Joe Carter. It's also listed in the further reading section at the back. It's Joe Carter, 9 Things You Should Know About Black Hebrew Israelites, on the Gospel Coalition website. I've read that article. It's not a bad article. I don't actually really know who Joe Carter is. Obviously, I know the Gospel Coalition website. So what's interesting about this book is you're going to see, because it includes Christian organizations as hate groups. Clearly, this book is not written by a person with Christian sympathies. However, some of the resources, the people that get their information, are from Christians, which is fascinating. Now, let's continue on here, pointing all that out. BHI, considered to be, quote, on the extremist fringe of the Black nationalist movement, end quote, embraces a, quote, theology that dates back to the 19th century, end quote. And they cite the SPLC there. That's the Southern Poverty Law Center. Its doctrine asserts that African Americans are, quote, God's true chosen people because they, not the people known to the world today as Jews, are the real descendants of the Hebrews of the Bible, end quote. Southern Poverty Law Center. It's interesting. My guess is, from what I've been able to see about Dr. Balak, is he's more familiar with sort of the white nationalist types groups. And that's why he's, I would say, probably quoting the other sources on really things that are kind of basic. Now, this, again, is somewhat of an academic resource. This is like a $75 book. This is not a book you just go in a Barnes & Noble and pick up. So it's fascinating that they're included in here. Now, it's going to get specific. Someone brought up, I see Skylar says IUIC is a cult. Well, give us time. We're actually going to see what the author is going to say about IUIC. They're actually going to include them in an entry here, which is kind of fascinating, right? At least I think it's fascinating. Okay, so continuing on here. Let's take a look at this, everybody. But about that BHI, okay, there we go. BHI adherents, quote, believe that Jews are devilish imposters and openly condemn whites as evil personified, deserving only death or slavery, end quote. SPLC. Now, that's a problem. Because here this book just quotes the whole thing as Black Hebrew Israelites. And it says that they believe that all of them, it doesn't qualify who believes this. It is not the truth that if you're going to use the term BHI, Black Hebrew Israelites, that's got to include everybody, like Zadok's beliefs, Israel of God's beliefs, IUIC's beliefs, William Brown's beliefs, Dante Ford. That's a lot of people it's got to include. They don't all believe that whites deserve only death or slavery. GOCC would say, you could be white, you could be my brother. You just got to get grafted in and mind your place. So what we see here now is that I doubt he would, Mr. Balak, he has a PhD. I doubt he would listen to what I would have to say on the subject. And I appreciate the resource he's put together to try to make other people aware. I didn't pick this up, though, because I'm going to be frank, I didn't think I was going to learn anything as far as new information. Like if I read a Jacob Dorman book, if I read Michael Miller has a book coming out. If I read I know I'm going to learn something because they're doing deep dives, deep research. By the way, Dr. Mike Miller is going to be on the program next week. And we're going to talk about 3 new books from the old One West school that we've discovered with his help. It's amazing. So do you understand that the academics, a lot of times, unless they are doing the deep dives like the journalist Sam Kestenbaum, frankly, they know less than the Christian apologist. Now, some of the Christian apologists are sloppy. I made mistakes. I made some mistakes last week. I had to write a blog about it and put it on Twitter and stuff like that and say I made a mistake here, made a mistake there in regards to certain things as they come out. And that sometimes happens when you're reporting on things as that are like sort of in the minute, So that can happen. But these are like basic category problems here. It is not true that all Hebrew Israelites believe these things. And yet, they're just saying, do you understand? It's not really fair. If you're going to say a hate group, okay, I get it. But to put just a whole category of Black Hebrew Israelites as a hate group and then say that they all think whites deserve death or slavery, that's just not the case. This book is in error. He cites SPLC, but if I'm not mistaken, SPLC's entry is for radical Hebrew Israelites, but he doesn't differentiate. So again, I appreciate the attempt, but you didn't get some of this right, Dr. Balak. And here I am, I'm an apologist, an independent researcher. I go against Hebrew Israelism, and yet I'm trying to not misrepresent them. Walsh, good point. The sad part is, vocab, One West will not acknowledge that you want to represent them correctly. That's right, and that's usually okay. Now, I'm hoping that some people jump on and say a little something later on. Yeah, Benjamin says, curious if they'll say anything about IOG. Warrior Woman says, what about straightway, basically? Yeah. The answer is probably not. Let's continue on here with this entry. So this is our job. This is one of the examples of we have to go above and beyond in this field because we can't just trust whatever we get from authorities on these issues because a lot of times they are not very well informed. Now, I think over the time that'll get better. I hope, but we'll find out. BHI, this is his wording, not mine, from this book. BHI believe that blacks and other people of color are, quote, empowered by God with superiority, end quote, and are willing to engage in violence, quote, as long as it helps rid the world of evil. Now, is that right? Is that right? Just a minute, I got you in the green room. I see you there. Is that correct, everyone? Let's see the source that they cite there. Johnson, Daryl Johnson, from a 2017 article, Southern Poverty Law Center, Return of the Violent Black Nationalist. This article, this entry literally just says they believe that blacks and other people of color are empowered by God with superiority. First of all, sometimes Israelites sometimes will say, no, it's not that we're superior, we're just chosen. Now, you do get ones who will clearly say, yeah, we're superior. That's right. But to say that it's all, no. And other people of color, if you're not a one-Wester, you're not going to throw the indigenous peoples on there in the category. And yet this is the BHI entry, as it's termed. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's the very entry for the big category. These are basic things that are wrong. I wish the book was more correct. A shame that people are going to pay $75 for this book, think that they have cutting edge, up-to-date information on these kinds of groups they want to know about, open it up, and then get a bunch of stuff wrong right on jump. I'm sorry, Dr. Ballack. Just let me finish this paragraph. I'm bring you on. Okay, so check this out. Oh yeah, willing to engage in violence? What? Look, again, I'm contrary to a lot of these ideas. Now, if you mean micro-violence by some groups sometimes, okay, but that's not what he's saying. He's saying all BHI, that's his acronym that he uses, all are willing to engage in violence as long as it helps rid the world of evil. Now, if they're talking about the future, well, some of the one-Westers think they're going to partake in the violence. Remember, this category is Black Hebrew Israelites. This is not a specific group. Others would say, we're not doing that. And guess what? Christians would actually say that. I mean, if they're on their P's and Q's, Jesus is going to come back and wreck shop. That's what's written in the Bible, specifically Revelation. But is that what they mean? I don't think that's what they mean. So if you read this, you would think, oh, these guys are about to do some Armageddon stuff on us. As long as it helps rid the world of evil. That's a small percentage. When you get someone who's really like, yeah, I'm a Hebrew Israelite, yeah, I'm this, I'm that, and I'm going to do this. It's almost always a lone wolf operator. It's not at the behest of their commander or general, with the exception, to my knowledge, of the Nation of Yahweh or some of these small house cults that have popped up. That's it. So now, will this change? I don't know, but right now this is wrong. I'm not saying every word is wrong, but a lot of it's wrong. Now, I mentioned earlier, we're going to try to get someone mentioned. He is on the thumbnail, and it's GRLA Hebrew, and I'm glad he's came on. I got him in the green room. Just give me a second to set up to bring him on, everybody. I need to fix that. That's the wrong name on there. Oops. Just a second. It'll take me a second to turn this around here. But I'm gonna bring on GRLA Hebrew. I see you, my friend. Okay, boom, boom, boom. He is on the screen, and I'm gonna fix that name. Just a second.
Okay,
and
beautiful.
then, okay, yeah, give me a mic check, please.
Check. I'm good.
Excellent. Okay, there you are. Okay, so why I fix your name on there? Maybe just, if they don't know, tell people who you are, and maybe after that, what you think of what I've read so far. I'm going to tinker around with this.
Okay, sound good. Yeah, well, first and foremost, I just want to give all praise to the Most High. I'm a Chief Priest Alazar Ben Loya, a.k.a. the GRLA Hebrew, leader of the Sakari Israelite camp, founded out of San Diego, California now, worldwide, through the Spirit and grace of the Most High. You know, and so far, I'm just coming in a minute ago, I like how vocab is definitely honing in on just some gross misrepresentations of the overall movement. It's always unfortunate to hear that and how things get propagated, falsehoods get propagated about any movement. I know that, of course, we're here on vocab channel, so a lot of people will definitely be in vehement disagreement with our beliefs and, you know, what we do as Hebrew Israelites, which is fine. But I think all of us as believers in God and seekers and believers in, you know, truth, we know that we shouldn't stand for lies, right? That's what we definitely shouldn't stand for. Anything that we know is an outright lie or a gross misrepresentation or a negligent disregard for truth, we should definitely all stand against. So I definitely think that that's the case in some of the information that's being purported in this book.
Yeah, so far so good. You and I agree on that. And remember, you know, that is the entry that he's got labeled as Black Hebrew Israelites. So there's no differentiation there at all. And again, this is, you know, I keep on reiterating, about a $75 book. So that's an academic type resource. This is not a book that someone goes into Barnes & Noble, says, that looks interesting, picks it up off the shelf. It's not that kind of book. So
yeah, you don't get to make that mistake if you're doing that. You got to be extensive and you got to be exact.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I'll read this, and then if you want, I can skip the I section and go to the S section after I finish this entry if you want to walk through this one, if you know what I mean. And
Yeah,
then when we
sounds good.
go to that section, the S section, I'll actually put it on the screen, a digital version. I'm just gonna do this one with from the book, if that's okay. So
That's good
everyone,
one.
everyone in the live chat, all sides, mind yourself. So far, so good. What we're here to do today is discuss something from our perspective, just like I asked him to do, and I'm glad. I asked a couple people. I was glad he came on, and so let's have a good discussion about this.
Yes, sir.
So continuing on, I'm reading what it says. Everyone, okay? BHI members can often be found, quote, and this is funny. Why would he have to quote? It's like you only quote that kind of thing if it's like you're not an authority in some way yourself. This is a weird thing. Watch what he's quoting from Johnson here. At busy intersections, parks, bus terminals, and subway stations in major cities in the U.S., BHI street preachers are often aggressive and very intimidating to onlookers because they use racial epithets and shout at people, end quote. I just think it's funny that he had to quote that. It's like, if you saw them, you would, you'd be able to describe it yourself.
Just say it, yeah.
I don't think he really has much practical familiarity, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
And again, now, from my perspective, I would think this would describe some groups, but this doesn't describe Israel of God.
Exactly.
Or really even GOC. Although I've seen GOCC more back in the day. I've seen them be pretty assertive.
Yeah, not so much recently.
Yeah, older GOCC, they were outside Christian churches, like in Cleveland. I don't know if there's a couple of videos, and they usually get kind of down, but yeah, not as much nowadays. The quote, notorious white supremacist leader Tom Metzger, you've probably seen this quote before, once stated that BHI members, quote, are the black counterparts of us white supremacists, end quote. Now, the thing is, I'm pretty sure he was only talking about ISUPK because I think they interviewed Johanna for that article. You know what I'm talking
about? I'm familiar.
So my thought would be, he needs to parse that out there. If he wants to say he said that about Johanna, not that Metzger's an authority on Hebrew Israelites, but he should at least say ISUPK, Johanna. He not everybody.
Yeah, it's in 2023 with all the resources that exist and all as big as this thing has become, I don't understand how we're being blanketed in the way that we are. Like, I think that there's a clear distinction in 2023 between the Nation of Islam, Orthodox Islam, Radical Islam. I think just generally the average American person understands that because somebody's a Muslim doesn't mean that they're a terrorist, right? I think that's a very ignorant idea that existed,
right,
20 years ago. Nowadays, that idea doesn't exist, right? So in the same way, there should be a differentiation in understanding the different types of Israelites that exist at different schools of thought, because people go, oh, don't Israelites believe this? And you say, no, I don't believe that. Well, but I heard the Israelite, just like there's different facets, beliefs, schools of thought in different religions and, things of that nature. We have the same thing, but according to documents like this, we're not allowed to have that same thing. We all just have to just blanketly be all of the things that are being described there.
And check this comment out. Issachar Israel says, I think these same academics will classify Christians as hate groups in the future as well because of defending the traditional family, opposing abortion, etc. Well, Issachar Israel, it doesn't have to be in the future. I turned to a book that has the Klan on the cover, and I turned to the F section, Focus on the Family. Milquetoast, Colorado Springs based, James Dobson founded Focus on the Family that produces Adventures in Odyssey and cartoons for children that are like, let's go to the imagination station and go to the Bible land. That's a hate group or extremists. And why mainly? Anti-LGBTQ. That's what they've got. Like, Focus on the Family's focus has never been that. It's just part of the Focus on the Family is saying what a family isn't. So yeah. Even my thought is, these things are interesting, but we can get information if it's accurate. My view is from an SPLC, but we should be no delusion that they're friends of ours. And I'm talking more to the Christians. Christians should be under no delusion that they're friends of ours, because they're not. They throw us in here. And they don't. So I just want to point that out. So back to the entry. Look at this. The quote. Look at this. Check this out. In fact, the belief system of BHI members. Now this is a block quote. So this is a big section right here. Is basically the reverse color mirror image of the Christian identity theology, embraced by many white supremacists, which holds that mainstream Jews are the descendants of Satan and that white people are the chosen ones, divinely endowed by God with superior status over mud people, believers' term for non-white individuals. Now that's Christian identity theology. They're saying that Hebrew Israel, they don't use the term Hebrew Israelites, but BHI is the mirror image of that. I mean, but... Go ahead.
That's not everybody. But again, it's so. Is that the Israel of God? Is that their idea? Can we accurately place them there? You know, and like there are organizations, congregations out there that are no small groups by any stretch of the imagination. IOG being just a good prime example of they're not small by any stretch of the imagination, and you can't put them in that box. You know, in fact, at all. You can't even stretch them in that box.
Your hat's a Blue Jays hat, right?
Yes, sir.
You seen that big organization out of Toronto? I think it's Elder Shadrach.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah, so they're Toronto based. Is the reason why I do with the hat.
Okay.
Remind me. So they're based in Toronto, and there's a lot of Sicilians who went over to Canada as well. And so Toronto has like Italian neighborhoods still, which is rare for America at this point. But they still have them over there. Well, I don't know how that all worked out, but if you pick up a book by Elder Shadrach, and I have several of them, and you look at some of the names of the authors, some of them are clearly Italian last names. And then you read the book, it'll say, me as an Italian, da-da-da-da-da-da. And they don't, from what I've seen, they don't fit them in as Israelites. They're grafted in. They're not like on the chart by way of dilution or something, like maybe a GMS understanding. They're like white folks, but they're right there with Elder Shadrach in them. Now, was that the majority of the members? No. But it's a strong contingent. In fact, they let them write chapters in their books.
Yeah.
So
or even straightway, like, pass it down.
Yeah. And he says interesting stuff. He'll say stuff like, oh, basically, this is a paraphrase, okay? Not literally. Basically, you white folks are with us. Some of you might be Israelites, and if you're not, it's okay because you're a spiritual Israelite. You're with us anyway. He's kind of, he doesn't go to great pains to say, well, you this, you that. In fact, they're really almost more of a Pentecostal group than they are a Hebrew Israelite group. Yeah,
that's what I would say.
So let's continue on with this. And then, like I said, I'm going to throw it on the screen after we finish this entry. BHI adherents hold religious beliefs that differ. So every time I do that, it means I'm quoting. He's quoting that part. Differ from those of modern Jewish communities in Israel. Janes. Well, yeah. Well, actually, that's actually not even 100% true, though, right?
Exactly. It's not even 100% true.
Because there are, and sometimes you guys will point this out, there are some radical Jewish folks. Now, they're a minority that say super racist things. When I don't mean just incidentally racist. I mean, they'll say compare people to animals, and then do things like talk about Gentiles are made to be our servants.
Yeah, for sure.
Those guys do exist. Yeah. So I mean, that's not even exactly accurate. BHI members, quote, permit polygamy and forbid birth control while practicing vegetarianism. Hey, what's up, Alazar? So how long have you given up meat?
Man, I just had chicharrones de pollo from a Cuban restaurant a couple hours ago. All right. Great. One of my favorite dishes, plus the beef empanadas with it. Definitely not like, and then even like when you deal with like the Ben Ami movement, they're not even vegetarian. They're straight up vegan, all the way vegan. They got a great restaurant here in Atlanta.
Yeah, those soul vegan restaurants.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a total, now we're vegetarian, man. Wow.
This is crazy. Like, everyone, I want you to understand, this is not an internet article. It's not a blog post. This isn't a lecture. This isn't a speech. This isn't a newspaper article. This is written by a high-level academic who's the chair of a department. It's one thing to be adjunct. It's one thing to come in every now and then, resident. That's a whole nother level to have tenure. To be chair of a department is a pretty big deal.
Yeah,
that's stability and security, and supposed to come with a certain. And then he's over here saying all Hebrew Israelites are vegetarians. But wait a minute, Alazar. Now we know Sakari would say, "Yeah, we permit polygamy." Do all Hebrew Israelite groups?
No, not even all one West permits polygamy.
Yeah. So who's some people who don't?
Like
For example.
IUIC teaches, we're not in the time of polygamy, and there may
That's
be a
funny you
few
said it that way,
others.
by the way.
Yeah,
Not a lot of
we're
people
not in
know
the
what you
time.
just not a lot of people know what you just said. That Isaiah 4.
Yeah,
They
that
apply
Isaiah
it
4.
to only when you have power or in control, then you can
Mhm.
enact it. That's funny though. But go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Yeah, because they know, they acknowledge it was in the past, and they acknowledge that it will,
Right.
take place in a future tense, but not presently. So, there's all kind of schools of thought on that matter within the Israelite community. Again, some people think that right now in captivity, because we're in captivity, we shouldn't practice polygyny. Some people think it's wrong totally, that it was only permissible in times past, but it's not going to be permissible now or going forward. So there's differences, different divergent schools of thought on the matter. And to just and like you said, man, this is somebody who's a chair, and there's like gross negligence. Like, I remember I had a phone call the first time we ever got put in the SPLC. I got a
Mhm.
phone call. I was still in San Diego, and somebody from the San Diego paper, they called, and this is a white guy too, and he's even laughing at some of the stuff that's being said. Like, he's like, I just don't see this is because, where our main spot is at is like 2 blocks away from one of their offices. So
Oh,
he's like,
Peachtree? You talking about San
no,
Diego days or Atlanta days?
San Diego.
Oh, okay,
So
okay, okay, okay.
you had like NBC building and stuff like that a couple blocks down to downtown. And he's like, but I don't even see how this is describing you guys. You know what I mean? So stuff like this that's just blanketed, that just zero research was taken. As somebody who's a high level academic, I feel like he definitely could have did a little bit more painstaking research. I'm sure he could have certainly got an interview with somebody to kind of give him a little bit more insight than I'm seeing kind of being purported there in the book.
Well, just wait till we get to your guys' entry.
Oh my
You could
God.
probably already guess a lot of it comes from the SPLC.
Wow.
You could probably already guess
And,
that.
and the thing with the SPLC was so crazy is, we had a situation here in Atlanta a couple months ago where we're in the midst of doing what we do on the streets at camp, and there was a domestic terrorist attack that took place a block over, and we just got
really?
out of there. There's this huge cop city thing. There's this, they're building this large militarized police training facility here in Atlanta. And there's a huge movement of like Antifa type protesters,
Oh,
right?
right.
They did it. I'm talking about, they had fireworks. The police union building, they blew up they blew the glass windows off of it. And this has just happened a block away from camp, right? So what ended up happening is, when they are doing sweeps, because you have this huge task force, feds, GBI, local law enforcement, that are actually locking some of these guys up. Somebody who is a current lawyer for the SPLC was locked up in that and found to be a co-conspirator in some of that activity. So to me, it's funny that the SPLC talks like so self-righteously as they're such an authority, but you guys have a current employee, and they didn't fire him, who's currently facing charges for domestic terror. Why
That's
are we talking about that? It's crazy.
Yes, well, I didn't know that. That's fascinating. BHI members permit polygamy and forbid birth control while practicing vegetarianism, avoiding the consumption of meat, dairy, eggs, and sugar. That's clearly just talking about Ben Ami's type thing.
Literally. And then even forbid birth control now, maybe there's Israelites that don't. I can't say emphatically every Israelite just says no birth control. It might be some brothers out there that might say, hey, man, she gets a pill, take a pill. That's not like a staunch talking point of the Israelites for him to just deduce that.
Yeah. And I mean, most Roman Catholics are anti-birth control. Some are anti-contraception. Now, this gets into a whole other show if we're going to do it. But when you talk about a contraception that prevents conception, most modern, at least Christians, now Catholics sometimes go back and forth on this, are okay with that, but not with anything that acts as what's called an abortifacient. So, for example, birth control, if you're talking about specifically about the pill, it does act as an abortifacient. So it should be a no-no. Condoms are literally contraception. They're not, the sperm and the egg are never meeting. But I'm just saying that's a whole other thing. But when he says birth control, I wonder if he means just the pill itself or any type of birth control at all.
Exactly.
But It says, this is still from the James article he's citing. Members adopt Hebrew names to replace names they believe could be derived from slavery, end quote. Well, sometimes everybody doesn't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know if Ron Shields is his real name. I'm not trying to, but that's Dante Fortson. Those guys use their names.
Exactly.
I'm just saying it's not everybody, So, but it doesn't say that is the point. Everybody, it doesn't say sometimes. It just says these are what the members do. BHI members, quote, keep the Jewish Sabbath. Is that right?
No, it's not right.
Even right.
It's not
So
right.
GMS, does GMS keep the Jewish Sabbath?
No, we don't. We keep a lunar
Nope.
Sabbath also, and then you have differentiation of opinion on what can be done on the Sabbath. You got some brothers that still buy on the Sabbath. You got people in Hebrew Israelites that keep a 12-hour Sabbath, that think only Saturday during the day is the Sabbath. So there's a lot of different opinions on that also.
Yeah, so that idea is just, now if you're talking about like Fournier's people, okay, but he's not talking about them. BHI members, quote, keep the Jewish Sabbath and many other Jewish customs, including circumcision, dietary laws, and the observance of certain Jewish holidays and festivals like Yom Kippur and Passover. That's from Turner. Any comment on that?
That's, I guess you would say, generally fair, but you even have Israelites that say, hey, we don't got to keep the feast days.
You know what's funny about that last part, just that small little quote? That was from Ryan Turner's article on CARM. CARM is Christian Apologetics and Research Ministry. So the one time they got something right, it was from a Christian apologetics group. All right, let's continue on, which is fascinating. They, quote, use the Old and New Testaments to support their teachings, especially the 5 books of Moses, Genesis, Deuteronomy. Is that right? Do they all use the Old and New Testament?
We got brothers this Old Testament. I done had a man tell me anything past Deuteronomy is falsehood.
I actually have met some people, and they'll quote Deuteronomy, don't add to this book. They'll say if you add to the book, where it says that, they'll say that that's what that means. I mean, basically like Sadducees.
Yeah.
That position.
There's nothing past this. The prophets, I mean, I didn't been arguing. I think I had an argument with a brother years ago on Facebook, and it was a messianic argument. So I went to going to, like Daniel 7, Daniel 9, things like that, arguing about the Messiah. And he just told me straight up, Daniel is false. And I said, Daniel is false?
Daniel is false, man. Even though you got all that fulfilled prophecy in it.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, in regards to the New Testament, is it not true that different groups have different perspectives on, for example, the Apostle Paul's writings or the book of Hebrews?
Yeah, definitely. That definitely exists. So you definitely can't blanket. You can't blanket that at all. Then you got, of course, where's the mention of the Apocrypha? The book's called Apocrypha. What about that?
I don't see it yet. That's good point.
That's a big thing with us, and that's, even if you were going to go to majority Old and New Testament, okay, but the Apocrypha is definitely, the majority of us definitely adhere to the books called Apocrypha.
True. Continue on, it says, but, quote, they do not consider themselves to be Jews in the modern sense of the term as associated with Orthodox, Reform, Conservative, or Hasidic Judaism, end quote. Nevertheless, a substantial number of BHI members attempted to immigrate into Israel in the 1970s because of Israel's law offering citizenship to all Jews, regardless of their previous citizenship. Because Black Hebrew Israelites, quote, could produce no evidence to substantiate their Jewish heritage, the chief rabbinate of Israel decided that the Black Hebrew Israelites were not really Jewish and were not entitled to citizenship, end quote. A lot of problems there.
Yeah, that's just not true. There's an entire community that exists. They're citizens.
Yeah,
what are we talking about?
Have you seen the pictures of people from the Demona community in the IDF?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, once you're in the IDF,
I know guys who from Demona who were in the IDF. Personally, I mean.
Yeah, once you're in the IDF, you're pretty much all the way bought in, I think.
Yeah, you're Israeli.
You're literally picking up arms to defend that nation, those people, however you want to look at it. That's what you're doing. You were willing to lay your life on the line at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there are definitely people from the Demona community who view themselves as Israeli, not taking away from the fact that they view themselves as Israelites, but they view themselves nationally as an Israeli, and they look at all Israelis as their people in a certain sense. Certainly,
yeah. So they have sort of a sophisticated complicated understanding. Let me tell you the most interesting thing I read by a African Hebrew Israelite of Jerusalem associate. They said, this is the paraphrase again, but it's in a book I have on my show page there. It said basically, okay, yeah, they're not the real people of the book, but God chose these certain Gentiles to preserve our books when we were faithless, so we still owe them a debt of gratitude. I thought that was fascinating. That was their sort of almost like the most positive spin you could put on what people will call modern day Jews.
Yeah,
You know?
definitely.
Now, I don't know if they all hold that exact thing, but this particular book did. Okay, continuing on here. Again, so that's not true. There's 5,000 or so that live there. Amari Stoudemire did a documentary that he helped fund called Village of Peace about these folks. So it's not true. Now, were there some problems? And did recently some face threat of deportation? And it had to do with paperwork, by the way. They weren't trying to get rid of everybody. I know people had different views on it. I never covered it, but it mainly had to do with paperwork. That's a short version of it. BHI adherents identify as Hebrew Israelites, therefore being, quote, modern descendants of ancient Israelites, whereas a, quote, Jew is a person who practices the religion of Judaism, end quote, and as such is not a, quote, true descendant of Hebrew Israelites. Would you say that's basic? That seems basically right to me.
Kind of. I mean, that's what you say, a modern day Jew, but just the term Jew alone, of course, we know where that goes back to. We know how that was used in antiquity to describe the inhabitants of Judea. You know what I mean, and things of that nature. So,
right.
Yeah, but you know, we could even find a problem with that.
So this next section again is a block quote, everyone, and it's all from Carter's article on the Gospel Coalition, which is a evangelical Christian reformed-ish leaning website. And so this is the quote here. It says this: "They do not consider all people of color to be part of the lost tribe either. As one BHI website explains, Israel is just one black nation that exists among many. The Egyptians, Canaanites, Ethiopians, Babylonians were black-skinned, but they were not Israelites. To say all black-skinned people are Israelites is like saying all Asians are Chinese or all Europeans are French. BHIs, and that's from the website Israelite Heritage. BHI, so this is still the block quote, everyone. BHIs also believe that the transatlantic slave trade was prophesied in Deuteronomy 28:68, which accounts for why so many Hebrew Israelites are found in America."
Yeah, I would say that the understanding that Deuteronomy 28 and 68 is in reference to the transatlantic slave trade is the damn near sole unifying factor of all Israelites. That's the thing that pretty much all Hebrew Israelites or black Hebrew, we all agree on probably that. That's the one thing. Other than once we get past that, now things
you don't know.
Now everything is different, but that's like the unifying factor is understanding that right there.
Yeah, sometimes I say that's Deuteronomy 28:68 is sort of like the Hebrew Israelite John 3:16.
Yeah.
Sometimes I say, okay, we got a super chat. Let me read this. God bless you, Faithful Witness vocab. Thank you very much. Gorilla, stop drinking that Gatorade. It's not good for you. Also, you're loved and being prayed for. I don't get the joke. Is there a thing with Gatorade, or am I missing the reference?
I appreciate you. I didn't know that Gatorade was harmful.
Oh, you have Gatorade with you. Okay.
No, yeah, I'm drinking it. I thought I knew Haterade. Something wrong with Haterade, but I thought Gatorade was all right.
Well, they left a smile, so I don't think they meant it in a harmful way.
Okay.
You know, that reminds me, have you ever seen Idiocracy? Where
great movie.
all the plants and everything. Well, why do you do that? Because it has electrolytes. What are electrolytes anyway? I don't know, but they're good for you.
But they're good for you.
Water? Why don't you guys drink water? You mean the stuff you find in the toilet? That was Judge, the same guy that made Beavis and Butthead.
That's when Terry Crews was president.
That's so funny. I mean, when we got Trump, we got kind of close to that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, here's the last paragraph. Then we'll go to the S section. Many hardline BHI adherents look forward to a, quote, imminent and bloody demise for whites and other enemies at the hands of a vengeful, returning Christ. SPLC is a source. Do all Hebrew Israelites believe that?
No. Did it just single out white people, or did it said something else?
Whites and other enemies.
Okay. I mean, I don't know if that's kind of everybody's viewpoint. I know a lot of people, there's certain debates that exist about, the lake of fire and, who's going in there. But some people believe that there's going to be people that don't go in there. And there's definitely different beliefs as far as how how the end times is going to play out for sure.
You know, you don't. If you don't know, don't. But I've been confused lately. I've seen these GMS videos. You know, speaking on what you just talked about, where they're saying that IUIC is teaching hell now, like ICGJC used to. But I don't know if that's true. Do you know if that's true or not? Because I've been very perplexed.
I don't believe that's true. I've seen the same thing that you're talking about, and I don't believe that that's true at all. I think maybe they're using the term hell, and then that's kind of being misconstrued. I don't know. You know, sometimes brothers reach, especially when they want to sling a little
Yeah,
mud.
I don't know either. I just don't know, but I've seen that. Now I know everyone in the live chat, ICGJC does. Tazadaki was promoting some version of hell, which looked kind of like Christian hell, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, what he said, Apollyon was going to be waiting in there to punch you in the face.
Yeah, you know, that's a famous quote. He's a punch you in the face right when you get down there.
And then also,
his arms
you had Yeshaya. You ever seen Yeshaya's teaching when he did that thing with Sonetta, and he was talking about there's some place up in the heavens that's like a hell, that's like a torture chamber. Yeshaya had a very interesting understanding.
It sounds like he's almost got purgatory by hell or something. But was he saying it's a? But it's or wait, hold on. Was he saying people are going to go to heaven afterwards, or they're stuck in there?
No, they're stuck in there, but it's like heaven adjacent, but it's like some type of torture chamber.
Fascinating. Well, okay, then that would be another. Well, okay, we went off a little bit, everyone, but I guess we could give him a pass maybe on this one thing because it says many, doesn't say all, and it says hard line. So there's a little bit of a qualification, but still, you can't tell me IOG thinks that the white folks in their congregation, which there's not a lot of, by the way. I know that in principle they'll say they accept. I didn't really see a lot of. It's not like there's a lot of white dudes. They may be down, and they were very nice to me. They were cool people. But by the way, that means someone subscribed. Thank you. But it's not. They don't think they're going to get judged like that. Why would they? They're grafted into Israel. They think. They don't think that's going to happen. So it's not right with everybody. And I think GOCC. Why would their white folks with them? Why would they get judged? Dowell's not going to have his white guys get judged. You know. In a BHI-produced documentary, an extremist BHI preacher, quote, delivers a sermon with his foot planted on the back of a white man laying flat on the sidewalk, arms splayed at his sides. He warns, quote, white boy, you're next, and adds, all you white people get ready for war. We're coming for you, white boys. Negroes are the real Jews. Get ready for war. I wish I knew what documentary this was talking about. It does not tell us in here, which is super frustrating.
How are you not going to cite that?
It just says a BHI produced documentary, so it does not tell us. It doesn't tell us the group, the camp, the year. It doesn't have anything. It just says SPLC said this. So maybe we could find it under the SPLC, but I don't know.
And this is a chair now. This is supposed to be an academic.
Dr. Ballack.
It's a doc. You gotta have the source on that, man. You can't just copy SPLC's work.
All right, now here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna show everyone, and this is what. So what happened is I said, Alazar, would you be interested in coming on and responding to this? Because guess who else they put in here?
Sakari. Wow.
So I'm gonna put this one on the screen though. So give me a second here to flip over. Let's see if this works. Okay, it actually worked. Now I need to make this a little bigger here. I'm gonna have to make this a little smaller and then. Okay. All right, we're going to get it a little smaller so we can see this. Can everyone see what is on the screen? I'm still inside the book, but now it's digital. Okay, and let me try to get this where everyone can see the whole thing. Let's see. Okay, let's see here. Might have to make it one smaller. Okay, well, it's not as big as I would hope. But it's we got. Okay. Shout out to everyone in the live chat, by the way. I know we got a bunch of different types of people here. I'm glad that it seems like so far everyone is able to get along. All right. So I'll read. What about this? I'll read it, and you just tell me where to stop because it seems to make most sense to just let you comment.
Okay.
You know, let me make sure. Is he muted? No, he's not muted. Okay. Everyone can still hear Alazar. Okay. All right, I'm going to flip this over here. Okay, here we go. We're on the right side of the screen, though, now, if you're able to look the other way. Okay, Sakari 1715. This is from this book, everyone. So this is Alazar's group that he founded. and leads. Let's find out what he wants to say. And I've already established I'm not co-signing a lot of this book. This is more an exercise to see what academics say and we interact with it. Not to say, oh, look at this. Sakari 715 is a racist fringe religious group of a larger movement known as the Black Hebrew Israelites. They cite the ADL. Like
Yeah,
the Black Hebrew
definitely,
Israelites.
that's
Go
definitely
ahead.
what the ADL said. I remember that article. The ADL definitely said that.
Do you want to talk a little about that, or?
I just, it's funny because we looked at the definition one time that they had of like some of these things, hate groups, and it's like they literally said just because a group or some of its members hold bigoted ideas doesn't necessarily mean you can place them in a certain category if that's not the primary objective of the organization.
Right.
And I guess you could call us a fringe religious group for sure. The racist adjective though, I don't, because I want to make this clear. Being a racist or having racist ideals is not a requirement necessarily to become a member of this organization, right? We don't, hey, checklist, oh, you want to join Sakari? Hey, first and foremost, brother, do you hate the white man? Like that's never been a requirement of this. So just to put that there, I reject that idea, and I feel like even if you disagree with us or you think that there's a demonization that needs to be placed on us, I think that there's a better, more articulate, and more accurate way to do so than that, for sure.
All right, no doubt. And everyone, I hope you see why I invited him on, because I mean, how can you do any better than to get the person that they're speaking of to respond? So this is an excellent opportunity here, his perspective on this. So I appreciate that. So the ADL, everyone, Anti-Defamation League, is a organization. The idea is let's fight anti-Semitism, and although they get into other things, for example, check their Twitter account during the month of June, if you know what I mean. But nonetheless, this is something they do. So they'll cover some Israelite groups sometimes. And Sakari is one of the groups that ended up on their radar, so to speak. Continuing on. Like the Black Hebrew Israelites, quote, it doesn't make sense. Like, well, I mean, they are. What do you mean?
I thought we're a part of the larger movement.
Yeah, I don't. It's just I don't want to be nitpicky, but then again, I do. Sakari 715 believes that, quote, African Americans, Hispanics, Latinos, and Native Americans are the Hebrew Israelites of the Bible, end quote. I think that's from your old website, because look at the sources cited there.
Yeah, I think so as well. Which is, I mean, for the most part, accurate. Of course, that's not a monopoly. But that's a generalization, so that's fair.
What do you think of? It's 2019, and they're still using the 1715. What can you give some background on that?
Well, yeah. So just to even have everybody understand, initially, after me and Deacon Hakaz ouster from Great Millstone, we came. The name of the camp was Exodus 17:15, in reference to the altar that Moses builds in Exodus the 17th chapter, which is a symbol of war on Amalek, and the name on there, as it is transliterated, is Jehovah Nisi, meaning, basically the Most High is our banner. And that's why, because during that time, there was a lot of harping on from GMS members, the GMS banner. So then when I read that and it meant, the Most High was our banner, I said, yeah, this is what we want. And it's still, we still embrace that. And even on our, if you ever see the Sakari shirt on the bottom, that's what's inscribed in the Paleo Hebrew on the bottom. So we still represent that. But like later on that year, this is all in 2012, later on that year, once I learned about Sakari, we kind of embraced that and ran with that and kind of branded ourselves as Sakari.
GMS banner, I don't remember ever them saying that, but that's something they used to say a lot.
Yeah, like, because it was, during the time, a lot of camp banging. It was a height of like GMS versus IUIC, ISUPK, GOCC, everything. So they would kept harping on, it's about the brothers who are under the GMS banner, and you guys aren't under the GMS banner anymore. And it's like, all right, well, the Most High is our banner,
I get it. What's funny though, bro? I'm just saying, if ADL did their due diligence for real. Now, I'm not saying their research is as shoddy as this book, because ADL sometimes finds stuff that I haven't been able to find. For example, especially like on David Anderson, that was a case where the ADL got all the info real quick, and they were one of the only sources because everything disappeared after that. But if they would look up Exodus 17:15 and then understand what Amalek means to one Wester, they would really have something to gripe about.
Yeah, no, exactly.
They
Exactly.
totally missed that. They totally missed that.
They missed it. Yeah, that's true. But this is the importance of, people could love, hate, disagree with, being different to vocab, but at the end of the day, the work that you have done is actually to delve in and understand the intricacies of the entire movement, and not, quote unquote, put paint where it ain't, to the, like, where it's like, well, this isn't true of them. You can't say that about these guys. That's a misrepresentation. Instead, people are just comfortable blanketing us, with everything. And it's disingenuous, really, with the information there. Like you said, you could go in there and you understand the doctrine, the beliefs enough to know, oh, so that means this. So that means these guys really got a problem with the ADL. You know what I mean? That's from just
Right.
understanding the doctrine.
Yeah, like, from the years I've done this, I've made mistakes where I've misrepresented. I've tried. Now, I know people in the live chat, some aren't going to agree. I understand. But I've tried to fix the mistake either by saying it. One time, I don't know why, in my slip up, I accidentally referred to Johanna as Tazadakia. I had to apologize for that. Just little things like that. Sometimes they're bigger things, mistakes. I'll say, am I messed up? Or I'll change it going forward, because Christian apologists, we can't build anything on conjecture, speculation, misrepresentation. We're not going to go anywhere if that's our foundation. Now, some guys will just say, well, yeah, vocab, lie. I get that. But sometimes if you just stop and think, is it just a difference of perspective? Some of our disagreements aren't lies. Like, I can disagree and say, I don't think they're lying. We have a very different perspective on this. Anyways, that's sort of a different issue. But this is wild. Watch this. The group maintains, quote, that white people are agents of Satan, Jews are liars and false worshipers of God, and blacks are the true chosen people, end quote. Is that right?
Yeah, I've always disliked this sentence, because it's like, I mean, I can see where you can get this from, right? But it's just like, Jews are liars. Well, wait, what are they lying about? Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, just, hey, Jews are liars. White people are agents of Satan. Can we also believe other people can be agents? We believe that being an agent of Satan is not race specific, or that white people have a monopoly on being agents of Satan. We certainly believe anybody can be an agent of Satan in even particular time. Number one, what is it again? Jews are liars. I mean, we believe that they're not. They're lying about so. But even Jews are liars, right? Let's just deal with that. Do I believe that if I'm driving through Brooklyn and I see an Hasidic Jew, that this person is a willing participant and a fully knowledgeable participant in what I believe to be a conspiracy of an ethnic identity theft? No, I don't believe that necessarily each and every person who's called Jewish is a willing and knowledgeable participant in something like that, right? So then, in order for Jews are liars to be true, we would have to believe that, which of course we don't. And then and false worshipers of God, I guess I don't even really know.
I don't
what
really
that
know
means.
actually what that means. Yeah, I don't fully understand false worshiper. I think I know what they're trying to say, in the sense of they don't really worship the one true God or something like that,
But I'm kind of lost a little bit.
It's really clumsy, basically. So again, we're reading from an academic resource, everyone. Hate Groups and Extremist Organizations in American Encyclopedia, published in 2019 by Barry Ballack. And there is an entry under the S section for Sakari 1715, which you see on your screen. And we're reading it and then getting Alazar's reaction. We are not done yet. Here's what next section says. The Southern Poverty Law Center has designated Sakari 715 as a black nationalist hate group. Black nationalist? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, black nationalists, but we have people who are not classified as black people, who are a part of it. So again, black nationalist is not accurate, because what about all the the Hispanic, Latino, and Native American membership that we have? So and even in a hate group, according to their definition of a hate group, we do not even meet the criteria. So again, like, what would they consider? Let's say the Brown Berets or the American Indian movement, would they be, a Latino nationalist movement, a brown nationalist movement, because you can't just box us into black nationalists, because of course we don't believe that this thing is exclusive just to people who are classified as black.
I don't see any entry for them in the subject index. I didn't see them in the front either. I don't know if they have any kind of group like that. That'd be an interesting question. I doubt it. Hasn't really been done hasn't been much work done on that in general, I don't think. So
yeah, and I know that those movements aren't as big as they were, let's say, like in the 70s, but they definitely do exist. I don't know if they would be classified. This is about extremist groups, though, right? Not just necessarily hate
the
groups.
Klan's on the front. The Klan's on the front. That's a picture of the Klan. Hate groups and extremist organizations.
That's just a serious cover, man. We're dealing with the Klan. That invokes a certain, I tell the story before, I was Catholic, so I remember going to church one Sunday and there being, pictures of the bishops and I'm looking, and my mom just looked at me and she knew what I was thinking. She said, I know what it looks like. That's not the Klan, right? But there's a certain thing that imagery invokes in people's mind. Right. I think anybody's mind that invokes. That's a very heavy picture to put on the cover of that book.
Yeah, well, maybe next edition. Maybe you'll make the cover, bro.
That
I don't know,
as long as it gets me accurate.
I don't know, man. Yeah. Okay, so this idea, black nationalists, did you guys ever embrace, I don't mean when you were in GMS, I mean when you were separate, did you ever embrace confusion of faces or speckled bird? Or have you always, because I've heard you guys give different breakdowns. You guys don't hold to that, right?
Yeah, well, speckled bird, yeah, but confusion of faces, when I was in GMS, I was against that doctrine. I remember having a conversation with a brother, Taza Bob, who was in GMS Seattle, about, understanding that and knowing that has nothing to do with how it was being applied. So even before I left, I didn't hold to that.
Wow, okay. So you had doubts about my man Aaron in Columbus the whole time?
Well, Aaron, you don't have now listen. No, but I want to say this though.
Okay.
Rex, right? Rex
Cienta, yeah.
No, hey, I never doubted him. Not that, now I want to make this clear, not that I don't believe that that can happen, right? But yeah. I didn't I didn't go to for that, because I got my my cousin's kids, man. He had children with a Scandinavian woman, man. And if you didn't know any better, man, hey, you think them was some white kids, right, man, without any question. So I understand that certainly is something that could occur based on understanding. I just didn't go to confusion of faces for that.
Right. In a way, he'll sometimes joke and say he's my father, because he's essentially my inspiration to get into this, because he's from the south side of Columbus. And now he tries to soft sell it now. I'm not trying to get you to comment on that when we're not doing that, but I'm just saying all the evidence I have was that they were going into the churches, not just on the outside. Tell them they're going to hell. Curse them out. I don't mean literally going to hell, but curse them out basically and then leave. He would say they were only doing outside, but either way, that kind of thing they were doing back in the day is what got me into this, because someone from the neighborhood was like, bro, they're going into churches in our neighborhood. And I look up and I'm like, look at the leader. What is happening, right? So it was a little confusing for my first like hard exposure was that. Mm-hmm. So anyway, it's pretty fascinating, but yeah. So let's look at this. Hey, we're talking about you, Aaron. Someday I still want to meet up with you, man. I bet we know same people from high school, even though you went to South and I went to Marion. I bet, but I don't think he wants to. That's all right. According to the SPLC, the Black nationalist movement, quote, is a reaction to centuries of institutionalized white supremacy in America. Black nationalists believe the answer to white racism is to form separate institutions or even a separate nation for black people. Most forms of black nationalism are strongly anti-white and anti-Semitic. Some religious versions assert that black people are the biblical chosen people of God. SPLC, Black nationalists. Thoughts on that under your entry? Your entry there.
That's interesting. It is here under my entry. I'm glad that you pointed that out. I think that is a good way to describe black nationalism to a certain degree. You can say it was formed as a reaction. I'll say, but I just feel like, of course, you can't really classify us as black nationalists, because of, but even then, you can go to the Black Panthers, in a modern sense. You can go to the Nation and certain other movements or organizations that would be classified as black nationalists, and you can find, Latino members the same way you can find in the Israelites. So I think there definitely needs to be some fine tuning of the concept of black nationalists.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know, it's a separate institution, separate nation. I don't know. It's some of this is just kind of sloppy, but let's continue on, because this is a fascinating thing that they delved into. I thought you might like this section right here. Sakari takes its name from an extremist breakaway sect of the Jewish Zealots, who engage in extremist activities to resist the Roman Empire during the 1st century. Now, in your guys' old videos, I remember you used to play the clips about the Sakari assassins. You guys don't really do that anymore, from what I can tell.
You know what's crazy is I was looking at an old video where we did it, man, and I said, I got to bring that back. I got to bring that back. It's nice and theatrical, man. I said, I got to bring that back.
The ADO inspired you.
Yeah.
Well, no, so everyone knows. So Sakari's a real thing historically, and I mean, I guess that's.
You can see it in Acts. If you look in Acts in the Greek, the word pops up. It wasn't actually describing the actual group known as Sakari, but just kind of describing some rebels in general. But yeah, go on with what you were saying.
Well, there has been some scholars, I don't think this is right in my view, that have tried to draw a connection between Judas Iscariot and the name there, saying he might have been a member of Sakari. They try to get it from the surname. I'll say the surname. Iscariot. I don't think you can get it from that, from what I've looked at all. And his issue seems to be a different kind of issue, if you look what the scripture actually says about him, than that. However, I think someone closer that we know less about, that may have been similar in a mindset prior to being a disciple, is the way I would understand it, Simon the Zealot.
Yeah, Simon.
And now I know you probably wouldn't get down with Chosen, but if you in the audience have seen Chosen, they portray Simon the Zealot as basically... I don't think they get into, like, I don't know if they use the term Sakari specifically. I don't know. But I do know they say zealots, and they show how he had defected from the group, and the dudes are trying to chase him down, basically, in the series throughout it, because they're like, yo, you defected. What are you doing? And there's
What's that, Chosen? What's that?
Oh, Chosen is a crowd-funded mini-series put out by evangelical Christians. It's actually high quality. I think you would disagree with some of the portrayals of the actors. However, they're not all as Euro looking as some other examples, and they do have a little more diversity in the cast than some other examples. It's still probably not exactly what you would want, but my view is it's better than other renditions. The Chosen has become pretty popular, already 3 seasons, if I'm not mistaken. And there's episodes, so it's like a TV series. Like, they make it like a TV series. So it'll be like intro in the beginning, real dramatic music. Then it's kind of like historical fiction, so there'll be biblical dialogue from the Gospels. But then, for example, what was Nicodemus doing before he met up with Jesus? Well, we don't know, but they fill all that in. But it's actually well done as far as the quality. It's very controversial amongst Christians, by the way. Very controversial for a variety of reasons.
I know a lot of evangelical where I remember what was that in the 80s? That came out, like the Image of the Beast. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, you talking about A Distant Thunder, A Thief in the Night? Yeah. You're talking about the basically Left Behind 1.0.
Yeah. So I'm just, I know some of the more, like the evangelical, some of their work is controversial, but they go out of their way to try to make it happen. I really enjoyed those, what I saw those films.
I grew up on those.
Wow.
So in Columbus, there used to be, believe it or not, a Christian drive-in where you actually go to the movie theater. It was all donations, and they would show Christian movies on the weekend. And I would go. I cannot tell you how many times they played that, because it's like a trilogy. There's like 3 or 4 of them. Yeah, they made in the late 70s, early 80s, I think. And they freaked me out as a kid. I did not want to get left behind. Now, since my eschatology is different than that, but you watch those, they do have some interesting stuff in them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's some truth in those, even if your eschatology is different. Anyways, so The Chosen, though, portrays the zealots is very fascinating, actually. I would love to hear your perspective on especially the zealot portrayal element. It's
Okay.
pretty interesting. Although I think you probably give a much harsher review when you were like, what is, but it'd be interesting to hear his perspective nonetheless. Okay, so check this out. This group is predominantly based in San Diego, California, but also could be found in the state of Washington as well as in inland areas of California.
Mm-hmm.
So that's clearly outdated. That's clearly outdated.
Yeah, it's clearly outdated, but it's crazy to see because that's just, like it says 2017. That's now 6 years ago. I mean, just to think about how the growth has come in 6 years is crazy because literally, yes, at that time, that's all there was. And then from that time forward, this is where the growth really came,
When I first ran into you, I think I only knew of 3 camps.
Yeah, literally, it was just San Diego, Inland Empire, Seattle. That was it.
That's crazy, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's,
yeah,
I mean,
crazy.
Even when I first saw Sakari Phoenix, I saw 3 to 5 guys. Now I go out there. It's been a while. It's a lot more than that. I'll just say that. And of course, you know. By the way, some of those guys, I know people that went to high school with them. I've never really brought it up with them, but one day
no, I think you told me that last time we was out there.
Oh yeah,
yes sir, yes sir.
Okay, so here's what it says now. As with that of the Black Hebrew Israelites, what? Now watch how wrong this is. Watch how
Where's
wrong
the editorial work?
Yeah, watch how wrong this is because it's going to talk about the Star of David. Watch how wrong this is. As with that of the Black Hebrew Israelites, the Sakari symbol features the Star of David. They don't all feature that. So what are you talking about? That's
there's a lot of Israelites. I might even say the majority of Israelites are against the utilization of the Star of David more than aren't, for sure.
You guys probably are the group that most prominently displays it. If I had to,
ISUPK.
Oh yeah. My bad. In there, okay. Second most from what I would just off the top of my head. Yeah, good point.
Yes, sir.
The Sakari symbol features a Star of David, and members often wear a costume-like garb resembling that worn by the Jewish high priest, the chief religious official, and the ancient holy temple during the Roman times. I totally want to get your opinion on that sentence.
Okay, if that's when you looked at the garments and you got, hey man, this looks like a high priest garment. Hey, boom, I'll take it.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's funny though. It has to like tell the audience, it has to tell the audience who the Jewish high priest is. The chief religious official. It's like it's kind of sad to me that it has to be explained.
I mean, it's high priest. I mean, it's self-explanatory, right? I would think.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. According to the Anti-Defamation League (ADL), the Sakari quote justify their hateful rhetoric with an alternative interpretation of the Old and New Testaments. They twist various biblical verses to fit their worldview through a Hebrew Israelite lens. End quote.
I even have an alternative interpretation of the Old New Testament. I mean, so what is my thing is, okay, but there are many alternative interpretations of things. What are we saying now, ADL, is the standard, the Orthodox interpretation? Is it the Jewish interpretation? But then we have the New Testament. So who's the authority there as far as that goes? So even with alternative interpretation, I would take with interpretations of, right, as opposed to just putting the alternative there, with interpretations of the Old and New Testament. And then they twist various biblical verses to fit their narrative. This is via the Anti-Defamation League. So they're being rooted in Judaism. I can see where they can draw a standard for what an interpretation should be, but
What's interesting,
I would
like you
like
pointed out, doesn't mention the Apocrypha. Go ahead.
Yeah, the Apocrypha's not there, and I would take that they use various biblical verses because, again, we are within the United States of America. We all do have a First Amendment, and when we're dealing not in a theological perspective, when you're classifying us, I don't think it's right to then say that our interpretation is wrong. I certainly think that they can just point out that we use various biblical verses and that, and interpretations to come to our understanding. And even a worldview through a Hebrew Israelite lens, that's fine.
Yeah, and so I see that, but when I read that, I'm thinking, and I guess this guy probably doesn't know about One West, even though it has its own, not extensive, but its own, I think, Wikipedia entry now. It seems like it should say One West lens if they're going to say that, or you could put One West in front of Hebrew Israelite, but That's not Dow's interpretation on key
Exactly.
issues.
Great point.
You know, it's like, but this just everyone should this should show us we got to check out what we read. Let's say you're a budding Christian apologist. You open up this book. You're like, I got the juice. You be making all kinds of mistakes if you just quoted this without any kind of check. You know.
Yeah.
So we got to do our due diligence. Okay, continue on. Here's it says a range of groups have been targeted by the Sakari's offensive beliefs. Women. The Sakari believe women should assume a subservient role to men. Married women must ask for permission from their husbands before participating in Sakari activities or asking questions during Sakari events.
Yeah. So, and based on when this article is written, they're getting this from, of course, when we were doing women specific classes, and we were simply telling married women, to ask their husband's permission before enrolling in the classes. And of course, this is important because we're drawing this based off of, Paul's epistles when he said, "Hey, if the women are to learn anything, allow them to, ask their husband." So we're simply just leaning upon the biblical standard as to the traditional family role and respecting the union of a man and a wife. The subservient role, even that, like, that I've seen things written, they believe that women are beneath men and, things like that. But I also read in the scriptures when it talks about they're neither male. People always go, when arguing with us, there's neither Jew nor Greek. Remember, those says they're neither male or female, but all one in Christ. So I don't believe in this concept of male superiority as far as value over a woman, but we do see a clearly defined role all throughout the Bible as far as, man, woman, and children. So if they're going to call that subservient, okay, you know what I mean? But I wouldn't call it that.
Yeah, my bet is that that the ADL, the SPLC would have a problem with what's called Christian complementarianism as well. I'm not saying it's identical to Sakari's views here or anything, but complementarianism does hold distinct biblical roles based upon sex in essence. For example, in relationship to the family structure and the ecclesiastical structure, that the role of bishop or overseer, pastor, preacher, whichever term you prefer, is only open to qualified men. There's a debate about the deacons, even within complementarians, about that element, and it gets into Phoebe and things like that. Debate about that element, and you have some folks like, for example, John Piper, who doesn't think, for example, and he's a complementarian now. Not all complementarians hold this position. He doesn't think, for example, women should be police officers, for example. So there's debates amongst Christian complementarianism. Now on the other side are egalitarians who basically throw open the doors for everybody, for everything. And that's not my position. I've talked about my complementarian position here before. I think I'd be described, I guess, as a soft complementarianism. Some Christians even they will call it Christian or biblical patriarchy. So they will actually say this is patriarchy. They'll say that. Now they define it their own way, but it's sort of on the other end of a harder complementarianism. So my point is to everybody that some of this they can level at us as well. Now here's what's interesting though. I didn't really know this latter thing about permission and all that. I didn't really know that with you guys. That means at least somebody at sometimes is like watching your classes, like for real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Not just me. And I don't watch everyone, but I obviously have watched classes. They are too, at least sometimes.
Yeah, because definitely, like I said, I remember this time vividly, and that was exactly when we launched the sisters classes, and that would directly be why that was written, for sure.
Yeah, that's do you guys still do women only classes?
Periodically. Every time we do it is periodically. Like we'll present like a women centered course. You know what I'm saying? That'll just focus on women, maybe 6, 7, 8, up to 12 classes, and just kind of focus on the sisters with them.
We have one quick question. I don't know if you can do it quick. Walsh,
who
created the Sakari logo? Because we talked about the star, David.
Okay, so the Sakari logo, just a brief history. It was inspired somewhat by, like, Maccabean Hasmonean coinage. And I kind of just shot a few ideas to a brother, and he just whipped it up, and then I added the Paleo Hebrew to it, and that was it.
Okay, well, thank you. All right. This next section, I don't know if it's going to show up on the screen that well because of the way I've got it set up, but I'll read it. You can kind of see it. Well, I guess you can. But it's for Jews. So that's the next section, Jews. The
Also,
Sakari promote. Oh, go ahead.
It's going into our specific beliefs on these specific groups of people, basically.
Right. That's what it's supposed to be doing. This is supposed to be saying.
Supposed to be.
Well, the way it phrased it at the beginning, it said that you have targeted. It uses the phrase targeted a number of groups. That's the way it said it.
Okay, targeted.
A range of groups have been targeted by the Sakari's offensive beliefs. Jews. The Sakari promote a number of anti-Semitic views, including the belief that Jews stole the Hebrewites' identity as the chosen people and are part of a master conspiracy to control the world. In one YouTube video, the Sakari note, "You're GD right, there's an international Jewish conspiracy. You're the richest GD devils on the earth. They are also Holocaust deniers, arguing that the Jewish people, quote, staged the Holocaust and did it just to steal the land of Israel."
I certainly wouldn't classify us as Holocaust deniers. The first part I'll definitely own, but that second part I wouldn't necessarily call us Holocaust deniers.
Was it you who said the quote there? Do you know if that's you or who that was?
I don't know for sure, but I'll own it though. I wouldn't put it past me. You know what I mean?
Well, me neither.
It's especially a 2017 me, a little bit less polished me for sure. I own that for sure. The Holocaust denial though, I don't own that.
Yeah, well, so can I share my perspective on that from interaction with you guys? There are some Hebrews-like groups who will be Holocaust deniers or revisionists. In my personal experience, specifically with just Sakari, and so I could talk about San Diego with Taz, or the kind of famous video from the Jersey camp outside the Barclays Center. Mm-hmm. What I've heard in those two instances is not a denial; it's a thumbs up. That's the way I understood it.
Yeah, so especially at Barclays,
and it's a good thing that it happened.
Yeah. So that's definitely just kind of you could call that targeting or triggering for sure. Especially that Barclays video. I was there that day, but I got there after that actually occurred. We had to actually reprimand a brother for that, because that certainly doesn't represent our take on it. We definitely, but again, we're not Holocaust deniers. I wouldn't say, and I definitely don't think that praising Adolf Hitler is a good reflection of us anyway, because I understand, and this is the thing too. Certain brothers may not truly understand all the intricacies of the Nazi movement and Adolf Hitler and what he was doing. I was educated about it very young. My father taught me a lot about Hitler, and just how, like, his ideals that he held and what he was trying to do. And yes, he definitely carried out a horrific thing upon the Jewish people, but he definitely had a lot of anti-black ideals. And if there would have been scores of black people that lived in his lived in Germany, I'm sure that that would have been carried out against us as well. So
yeah,
definitely,
I'm not with that. He persecuted by death even what they would call Afro-Germans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Afro-Germans. Even and then. And what's good too, what people should do too, is even delving into the Holocaust, what he did to Jehovah's Witnesses, even were getting killed during that time.
That's true.
It's Polish people, Russian. There was a lot of people who were getting. So there's a lot of intricacies there. So I definitely don't want to get into the business of praising Adolf Hitler for sure.
I mean, I'm just saying, and you don't have to comment, but Taz did say Hitler dropped the ball. Because he did say that. Yeah, he said the pass was at the numbers and he couldn't complete the pass. His sports background, so he used a sports analogy for it. And I was like, wait, so you're saying he should have? He's like, the Germans are incomplete pass. So when I heard that, I was like, well, clearly these guys aren't Holocaust deniers.
We're not deniers. We're not deniers.
Clearly. Yeah. So that's that element. Now, I have heard IUIC, for example, minimize the numbers, not outright deny, but minimize. I have heard Ron Dalton Definitely minimize. But I've not heard Sakari do that. In fact, I've heard it the other way. Caucasians. This I know you can't really see that, but it's kind of brief. It says
Okay.
the Sakari believe Bible references to the wicked are actually allusions to white people whom they refer to as the devil. That
Yeah,
doesn't really do it justice, in my opinion.
No, it doesn't, because every time it says the wicked, we don't think that this means white people. That would just be a total abuse of context. There's times where the wicked is indefinitely Israelites, and not an allusion to anybody else other than wicked Israelites. There's other times where it just in reference to wicked people in general, not specific to any ethnic group. So yeah, I think that doesn't really do our theology on the wicked and Caucasians justice.
Yeah, it seems like any entry on you guys would need to include Edomites. If you're going to talk
Yeah,
about, I don't understand how you just leave that out.
yeah, just the devil. But like, why can't we talk about Edomites and they're descendants of Esau? And there's and it doesn't take a lot of information to figure that out either. So yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Now, do you guys use the phrase that much? The white man is the devil that the Bible speaks of. I know usually UPK uses that. Do you guys ever use that, or is this something you would hold to?
Yeah, definitely.
Is that kind of a UPKism though? It seems.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard line one West, phrase for sure that just lives on, from one West for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's on a shirt that UPK puts out, if I'm not mistaken. All right,
Yeah,
so
they got it, and we had a lot of our Mexican members were getting El Hombre Blanco es el Diablo on the back of their shirts. That was big, and I still think may be big amongst some of our Mexican members for sure.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. All right. Okay, so here's the next part. Here, I'm gonna make us a little smaller so I can read this. So this is the latter part of the entry. It's short here, and we're towards the end of it. Muslims, despite borrowing some elements from observant Muslim practice.
I would love to know what those elements are.
What you guys borrowing from the Muslims there? I didn't know about this. What do you guys what are you guys doing there?
We're praying 5 times a day. I don't understand.
Is it the pork? Oh, that's in the Bible. It's like don't they know that?
I know.
The only thing I could maybe see is I don't know if you guys do this though. GMS will pray to the east.
Yeah. We definitely face the east for sure.
I could maybe see them like getting it, but I don't think that's what they mean.
They wouldn't even know that. They wouldn't even if by the lack of knowledge that they've demonstrated, there's no way they would know that we pray to the east.
Although I do like this entry because Lashwan Kodash makes a cameo. So watch this. Despite borrowing elements from observant Muslim practice, including the dress code for female members, it's like that's not where it's from. The Sakari are Islamophobic, believing that Muhammad was a false prophet. Now hold on. If you say Muhammad is a false prophet, is that Islamophobic, people? Then I'm guilty, right?
Yeah.
You seen any episodes of Islamicize Me?
Exactly.
I'm sure it's your favorite series. Clearly, I would be guilty of this as well. This is crazy they would have this. Like, does this person writing this think Muhammad was a true prophet?
Exactly. That's a good question.
Come on, man. To me, this is wild that this made. You know what I feel it is? This is my view. The left, because this is, I think, written by a person primarily on the left, as you can tell by the entry underneath. Mm-hmm. They don't know what to do with Muslims in a lot of times because they feel like, okay, this should be some kind of a protected class because of colonization. This happened, that happened. But then they have these views that are radically out of step with like Western progressive ideals. So I feel like they don't really know what to do. That's kind of and I think we see it here like Islamophobic. Well, do you guys believe Muhammad was not? Like, what?
Yeah.
And
that's
promote
a good point.
Conspiracy theories that the Quran endorses pedophilia. A conspiracy theory? How old was Aisha when Muhammad married her, everyone? 6 years old. And that's according to the Hadith, by the way. What
we don't have to delve that deep with that. We don't have to delve deep with that. It's not conspiracy.
A conspiracy theory? right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
How old was Aisha when Muhammad consummated his marriage? And everyone should understand what that means. She was 9 years old.
Mhm.
9 years old. I don't
Yeah,
even think GMS would go that young.
yeah, and what's so crazy is too, like, just even with that, like I was watching Escaping Polygamy actually the other day with my wife, and
That's kind of
I
a funny
just
story that you just said.
yeah, no, with my wife with polygamy. I mean
Can you
polygamy.
repeat that?
Watching,
Can you
I was
repeat
watching,
that, please?
I was watching Escape Polygamy with one of my wives, right? And because we're just watching it, and I'm just like, it's not even fair. You guys need to call this Escaping Fundamental Mormon Cult, because it's like the child bride and the incest that's going. It's like, oh my, this is not this. We do not represent what I'm saying. You guys need to come to my house and see that this is not how this is going. You know what I mean? But that gets to be the model of polygamy. This fundamentalist, crazy, backwoods Mormon cult riddled with child brides and incest and things of that nature. Just but we can go there and now polygamy gets to be blanketed by that practice, right? But then here it's a conspiracy theory, what's plain in the accepted sacred text of the religion, that he married a 6-year-old and consummated at 9, and that's somehow a conspiracy. That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's like in their entry about you, they get Islam wrong. Yeah, it's like error within error right here.
Man,
That's wild to me. It's like, has he looked this up and seen? It's like, you can't. This is not a minority position. Muslims know this. I went to Arizona State University for a lecture by the Muslim student group there. The lecture was given by college students at Arizona State University on the campus of ASU. The lecture was all about a kind of academic, they were undergrad students, but an academic defense explanation of Muhammad marrying at 6 and consummating at 9. And the basic essence of the argument, he did this and did that, was girls hit puberty much earlier, so it was okay. That was kind of the basic essence of the argument. But he didn't deny the age. Now, sometimes you will find some Muslims who try to put the age at a different age, but that's minority position. So I just think this is wild. Promote conspiracy theories that the Quran endorses pedophilia. So just so everyone knows, Muhammad really did that. We did a skit called The Boom Boom Room. And in it, Muhammad's talking to Jeffrey Epstein.
Wow.
And Jeffrey Epstein says, one time I splurged and sent myself or whatever 12-year-old French girls for my birthday or something like that, which is a real account. I forget exactly the phrase in the dialogue. And Muhammad goes, "Oh, so you like older women?" 12-year-olds.
I remember that. I remember y'all did that. Yeah, I remember that.
Okay. One meme on their social media pages includes this call to arms. All-out war on Islam has been declared. Qam Yasharallah. Arise, Israel.
And what's crazy about that is a call to arms. Look, I actually was collaborating a lot with the brother LaRon Campbell during that time, and it wasn't a call to arms. We were literally just attacking Islamic doctrine on a lot of public platforms and having a lot of debates with brothers of the Muslim school of thought. It wasn't like, we really wanted to go shoot Muslims. That's crazy. A call to arms. Come on.
Wait. You were debating Muslims with G-Con?
Yeah, me and G-Con, we did a whole radio show one time called Islam is Dead, man. And it was great. I wish somebody could find that. That was a classic. Me and LaRon just going in on Islam for probably 2 hours.
Fascinating. Again, you don't have to comment on anything. I throw out some things as it comes to mind. There is a meme or a thumbnail, everyone, where it says NFL hires racist Islamophobe vocab Malone. It's got me on the picture. But I found it so lovely that IUIC would call me an Islamophobe. If you ever watch a IUIC video, they literally compare the Kaaba to a woman's genital region. If you guys understand what I'm saying, there's videos of them literally doing that, saying, look at the shape of this, look at this, da-da-da. So it's just wild. But anyways, I like that Qam Yasharallah made a cameo in here because they got some Lashawan Qudash.
Some good old LQ in there, huh?
Yeah, I thought that was fascinating. I was like, well, at least they got the translation basically right there, LGBT And now we'd have to say LGBTQIA++. The Sakari condemns the U.S. legalization of same-sex marriage in 2015. You know what Douglas Wilson calls that? He calls it, and I'm not co-signing Douglas Wilson. He did a whole show going against his book, but I just thought this is an interesting thing, so I got to give him credit. He calls it same-sex mirage. Citing traditional Bible verses which frown upon homosexuality. I mean, I guess you could say that.
Traditional. Hold on. No,
Uh-huh.
so now wait a minute. That's not a interpretation, a twisting under the
Right.
Hebrew Israelite lens, right? Okay, that's just the Bible says that. All right, cool. So
Yeah,
but
this
my
is.
thing is, what am
Uh-huh.
I supposed what are we supposed to do though? If it says that, right? Am I supposed to say that I believe in this book and I believe that this book has been inspired by God and that God has given me instructions in this book that people need to follow? And am I supposed to not believe that now because society is kind of redefining its viewpoint on it? I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, so this would be one of those places where Christians in the audience should agree. Now, look, if someone's watching this and like, oh my gosh, vocab, why are you being so friendly? And you look, everyone knows my position. This is not me being two-faced. I told him, if you come on, we'll talk about this. I'm not going to ambush you with something else. That's just keeping my word, because I think you can't really do stuff otherwise. Because how do you talk about what you need to talk about if you just talk about what you disagree? So here we
Exactly.
are. So we've had our disagreements. We still will have them, and that's a fact. However, this is a point of agreement. So it's like, Christians, what do we do? So, a lot of Christians want to try to minimize, hyper contextualize these verses to try to get rid of them and update the Bible. And it never ends well. And most of the time, you end up with something that does not really resemble actual Christianity in any way. And we've seen this again and again and again. And so this is something that will also get most of us branded hate group as well. So we do got to keep that in mind. And I showed that with Focus on the Family, citing traditional Bible verses which frown. I mean, do a little bit more than that, but okay. Sakari considers homosexuality a wicked act. I thought it was interesting. They put wicked in quotes. So who said this? You're the vile of the earth. You're sick. You promote all types of sexual deviance and debauchery. You're a vile creature. Was that you?
I think that could have been me. And again, I'll take ownership. Definitely sounds like something I would say. But definitely Deacon, Captain, Chief Officer Yash. That could have easily been either any one of us, but I'll certainly take ownership. I like the quote.
All right, continuing on. And again, I appreciate your perspective on this. I mean, who better to ask? I'd love to get someone, well, I know IUIC wouldn't come on, but from maybe UPK or ICGAC, because we're not going to be able to cover their entries today. But spoiler alert, everybody, they're in this as well. Here's the last section as far as groups targeted. The Sakari harbor extreme anti-American sentiments and blame the U.S. for slavery and white supremacist ideology. They frequently refer to America.
Blame the United States for slavery. I mean, it kind of happened here.
I'm not sure who else you should blame, to be honest. I don't understand this entry
at all.
Now, so I don't think the U.S. invented white supremacy. But I don't know if you guys would say the U.S. invented white supremacy. I don't think you would.
Certainly not. I think it definitely definitely predates the United States of America. It's definitely before 1776 for sure.
Yeah. So I'm not, but hey, whatever. They frequently refer to America as a modern day Babylon, possibly conflating that city with the morally corrupt Sodom and Gomorrah.
Wait, what?
What is that explanation they're given?
I don't know if I don't understand that. I don't know what they're getting. This sounds like somebody listened and they were just like, okay, probably Sodom, right? I don't know. That sounds like somebody's ignorant who collected that.
And this isn't Balak, everybody. I want everyone to know this is a block quote. This is what's called a block quote. Whenever you have it offset, indented, usually 5 on the left and 5 on the right or whatever it is, and then you have the text where it's like that. That's called a block quote. That means it's a large citation from another work. He's citing the ADL there.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, okay, yeah, you guys call America modern day Babylon. To be fair, there's tons of Christians that do as well.
Exactly.
So I hold a larger view that Babylon is representative of a larger corrupt system, not specific to America. But there's plenty of Christians that would say that's what Babylon is. Yeah. And the Sodom and Gomorrah thing, I don't think they meant this, but look at this. It almost sounds like the ADL is calling Sodom and Gomorrah morally corrupt here. You see what I'm saying?
Which would be interesting because then it would contradict their issue
Right.
with the previous black one.
Well, there's a whole line from like progressive biblical interpretation that says the sin that God judged Sodom and Gomorrah for was their lack of hospitality, not for homosexuality.
I'm gonna tell you what's interesting. When I was in college, my world religion teacher,
Yeah.
who was definitely far left, a far left $5 Indian, for sure. She said,
Phil Fox, you hear what he brought out? Go ahead.
a very far left $5 Indian. She said that the sin of Sodom was greed.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was very, because I'm like, well, where are you drawing that from?
So
Right,
I
she never
do
cited the source.
think there's a passage in Ezekiel that talks about the judgment of Sodom that does mention that. It mentions the vanity
Okay.
and the pride. I went to a very conservative seminary, but they had one prof who fooled around with soft left ideas, for lack of a better word.
Okay.
He pushed this in our ethics class. Not that it was okay, the sin we're talking about, but
Mhm.
that was the real sin, was the greed and the pride. So you'll even get evangelicals who sometimes adopt these, and they go, there's a passage in Ezekiel, and you'll see it there. But it's like, okay, read Genesis 19, though, for real. These guys tried to have sex with angels. Now, they didn't know they were angels. And I always think this is fascinating, right? Even after they were struck with blindness, it says they groped for the door. They were still trying to get in and have blind sex.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
And,
I mean, come on now.
and even if we take a look at if you just key in sodomites and look how it's used throughout the Bible, especially in the Old Testament, like it's and you look up the Hebrew entry, it'll tell you, it has very interesting entry, so it lets you know that Sodom is synonymous with definite sexual deviancy without any question.
Yeah. Continue on here. One of their videos includes a line, "The Russians are going to destroy America. We rejoice at this fact."
Yeah, possibly that's my quote. I'll take ownership, but any of us are definitely liable to say that.
But you wouldn't say just the Russians. Isn't it the contention that, do you agree with the 200 million being
No.
nuclear missiles no, you don't.
So what's interesting about that scripture was actually, and this is great to document this here, that scripture is actually the very first time where we really questioned the elders of Great Millstone's breakdown or something.
That particular scripture.
Yeah, and it happened live at camp. So we're literally at camp. I remember Captain Tazama was reading it. Me and Deacon Art, we're kind of going back and forth. And we're reading it and we're breaking it down as it was taught. And we just start looking at each other like, yeah, man, I don't think that's it. And then we actually did research on how many nuclear warheads are there in existence.
You
right
went
now.
where you shouldn't have went.
And when I went that, it was so asinine to think that it's going to be 200 million. And you frankly don't need nearly that many to wipe out a landmass the size of the United States of America. And then we kind of just we delved into the Greek and we're like, well, is the Greek really saying that? And what we deduce from the Greek expression is it's actually just kind of referring to there was going to be a lot, not necessarily 200 million, but there were going to be a lot. Whatever it was describing a lot. So yeah, we definitely don't believe in the 200 million count. We believe that there will be however many. We definitely still believe in the thermonuclear missile. And like you said, not just the Russians, of course. The Russians will have allies. Some of America's own allies, we believe, also will turn on them and participate in the destruction as well.
So if everyone doesn't know what we're saying, I know we didn't really explain it. Revelation chapter 9, verses 16 through 18 say this: "The army had 200 million soldiers on horses. I heard them say how many there were." And it goes on, yada, yada, yada. And so my understanding, and I think you're confirming, GMS to say that's the amount of nuclear missiles going to go rain on America. And you're just saying it's a lot, not literally 200 million. But you would still say it's nuclear missiles?
Yeah,
And
the
it'll be
nuclear
by
war.
pretty much almost like all nations, even America's allies, correct?
Yeah, some of the allies. I wouldn't say all, but definitely some of the allies are definitely going to. That goes into also in Revelations. People are familiar. We believe America is the whore, Babylon, right? And that some of the horns would hate the whore. So we believe some of the people who are in current alliance with America are going to, turn on America.
So including but not limited to Russia, just so we. So
Exactly.
we're not saying they're wrong there. We're just adding some more context, everybody. That's it. Sakari 715 hosts a public radio show with the tagline "We are the revolution." You guys still do that show, or I don't really know if I see that.
We use it. We use the term, but it's not as we don't use it as much anymore. That we had a whole channel, Sakari Water, WATR, which water was the the acronym of We Are the Revolution. We still use it, but it's definitely not we don't do the radio show of that anymore.
Do you guys still use the acronym FAWP?
Certainly. Definitely. I got it. UrbanGrilla.com. You get your 5 shirts. Faith and works prevail, y'all.
Do you want to say what the... All
Faith
right, here
and
we
works
go.
prevail, bro.
Yeah, that's right. On one particular episode, the group spoke of guerrilla warfare and bringing, quote, an offering of black power and an array of other topics from an Israelite perspective. Sakari 1715.
Yeah, I don't have any recollection of an offering of black power and an array of other topics from an Israelite perspective. I think possibly I was on somebody else's show and that's what they put as the description. I don't think we've ever put that for sure.
Yeah, some of this stuff, it's weird. I'm reading this now. Everyone understand the book's from 2019. So some of the entries are from 2017, but some of this stuff I still don't. It's like if I was going to write an entry on Sakari, it wouldn't be like this. Some of the stuff is like, that's not even really a main thing for them. I don't really know why. It's like they just, I don't know, put the first stuff that they came up on,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. According to the Anti-Defamation League, Sakari 750 quote, spread their message of hate online and maintain several active YouTube pages where they post lectures and footage from their demonstrations. I don't know.
I guess that's true.
It's just such foreign language, right? Demonstrations, several.
Yeah. Several. Yes, I guess.
Well, again, I guess back then it'd be true, but this should be probably updated, and maybe he'll watch the show before he updates it.
Yeah, let's hope.
So there's the sources, and that's the end. So they got ADL. Sisterbrother.com. I don't know what that is. That's PLC, Scar 17, Exodus 1715. So that's it. And then it goes to the Social Contract Press. That's the next thing. So that's your guys' entry on page 299 and 300.
Okay. Wow.
Any overall thoughts you want to give? And I appreciate you coming on.
Definitely appreciate you for having me. I just I think that before this book was written, I think that a certain effort should have definitely been made to the groups that he planned on speaking about. We're definitely not that hard to get in contact with. I've done several interviews, be it radio shows, newspaper, things of that nature. I did one actually a couple months, but like the day after the debate with Dr. Brown, I did one with somebody who's doing like a film on different kind of religious sects in America. So, we can be reached to, we can clarify things. We have no problems talking to people whatsoever. And we understand that people are going to put things in print, make videos and represent us. And we would prefer not to be misrepresented. So we definitely make ourselves available to speak to people, just like this now. I definitely appreciate Vocab for allowing us to speak directly to what's being said about us and show that a lot of this is kind of misrepresentation. It's some of this is just flat out strange, as y'all have seen. But again, we're not hard to get in contact with. If you're working on something like this, we definitely have no problem giving a comment. I had somebody who was writing a thesis in college reach out to me. A Caucasian girl she went to UC Davis. I had no problem getting on the phone with her and just clarifying exactly what it was we believe so she can be accurate, in which I'd rather be represented right. And if I got to talk to people to do that, that's fine. You know what I'm saying? No problem. So I think it's important that we all do our due diligence and disagree with anybody you want to or agree with. There's no reason you have to misrepresent anybody. Let the truth be the truth and let the truth reign, for sure.
Yeah, I think we agree on that. And so, I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, there was more entries, but I'll cover those another time. Everybody, hopefully, I think stuff like this is fascinating. There's a whole nother report put out by I think there's a Center for Extremism at Georgetown, and they put out a massive PDF. And I've been meaning to cover this. Now it's not even brand new. Now it's still recent in the sense of the last 6 months. And there's another thing by another group. I think the Simon Wiesenthal Foundation or something. So stuff like that. There's stuff that's a bit more current than this, but this one is interesting because it was hardcover. So I said, well, let me text and see if he'd be down to talk about this. So I'm glad he did, so we can get the perspective. So I don't know. You care to share to the audience what you guys I don't know got going on or have coming up or anything like that?
Man, we just working in trying to kind of increase a lot of things that we got going on. So just look for us. You know where to look for us. I got a new YouTube channel I'm actually getting ready to open up. So look out for that. It'll kind of be a little less structured than what we already have. Just kind of be sporadically live on there, going into different topics. But hey man, we just doing what we've been doing, man, and trying to get this word out. That's it.
Yeah, I've seen you do some things that are like podcast sit downs where you just talk about different things. And I remember I heard you flirt with the idea back in the day doing a sports podcast.
Yeah, I got a channel. My Urban Guerrilla channel is kind of for that, where I talk about I'll just go into whatever. There's definitely a certain segment of our target demographic that may not yet be inclined or ready for the teachings, but I know that they have an interest and they like hearing us talk about certain things. And of course, also there's a segment of the Hebrew Israelite community that they may listen to secular podcasts about certain topics outside of the doctrine that they want to listen to, and they kind of rather hear it from the brothers who are instructing them as far as the doctrine goes. So we kind of have that there. It's definitely not for everybody. Some people are like, what does this have to do with the gospel? I'm like, well, it doesn't. That's why it's not on the channel where we're teaching. This is kind of just if I want to talk about the finals, I might discuss the final, the NBA finals over here. People forget, like, 24/7 I'm not just Bible open, rebuking, teaching, going into Hebrew, debating people. You know what I'm saying? We definitely take leisure time. We definitely watch sports. We definitely hang out and watch different things. We like to talk about different things, and I think that there's an aspect of the Hebrew Israelite thing, even by some adherents, that is like we're not humanized enough. So that's kind of what we do over on there. That's on my Urban Guerrilla channel, where we talk about all kind of topics.
So do you root for the Hawks now?
No, I definitely haven't. So my NBA relationship has been funny because I've been a Clippers fan since I moved to California. In 2002, I was since 2002 I've been a major Clippers fan, and I was so betrayed when they traded Blake Griffin that I followed him. I said, wherever he's gonna go, that's where I'm gonna go. And then he went to Boston. When he went to Boston, I said, "But I can't do Boston. I can't do Boston." So I've found a home in Miami, and we just so happen to be in the finals. So
okay.
Shout out to the Heat.
Well, that's funny. Blake Griffin is on your 12 Tribes chart, ain't he?
Yeah, he is, and he walked by our camp in Dallas as well.
Did he see himself on the chart?
No, he was across the street, but he listened. He just was like, yeah. And then he actually walked by GMS New Orleans years ago too. Yeah, it was. I'm gonna tell you, what's also crazy. So Blake Griffin is the same ethnic mix as me, Haitian and Irish. And I had my son. Now I had a son literally, as you know, the day after the debate, the morning after the debate with Dr. Brown, and I already had the name Griffin preordained for him. And he came out, man. He got red hair like Blake Griffin. Man. It's crazy, right? It's crazy, man.
Oh, wow. I didn't know all that.
Make this up, man. Yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, is it a thing for people in San Diego to like the Clippers, sort of as an alternative to Lakers? Is that kind of like a thing?
Well, most San Diegans, man, like the Lakers, even though they probably should like the Clippers because the Clippers actually played in San Diego. But me, when I was in the LA area first when I moved to California, and I just saw them. They were a young team, and I just said, man. And then everybody liked the Lakers. I felt like it was too easy. So I'm going to Clippers.
Well, wait a minute. What about Supersonics to Oklahoma City? You like the Thunder?
See, you got to remember, they trade the same way I felt about the Clippers trading Blake Griffin, when they traded Gary Payton, I felt the same level of betrayal. I couldn't continue with the Sonics anymore.
Oh, okay. Well, you could probably predict mine: Cleveland Cavs and Phoenix Suns.
Hey man,
That's me.
good teams, man. Good squads.
Do what they can. Well,
Yeah.
all right, y'all. I appreciate people coming on and all that, and I'm glad we could do this. I know it's not always going to be this way. I understand that, but I do like it when it can be this way because we can get some things done. And so let me see. Oh, last thing. We're going. I appreciate Thursday next week, and it's going to happen in the morning. I got to change the time, and I think you might have heard me mention this. We got a scholar who's got 3. And he gave them to us. I don't know if anyone else has them except for the library, this scholar, and now me and Abu. 3 brand new One West publications.
Wow.
We got the one where they talk about Muslims. We got the one that's the images. And we have a different version of Change of World.
Wow.
Updated version.
Okay.
So it's pretty and we're gonna show it to everyone, and then we are gonna make it publicly available.
Definitely.
Well, there'll be a link for everybody.
We appreciate it. I'll be tuned in. Y'all are doing it Thursday. If I get a hold of it, man, I'll try to definitely go into it Friday, man. But I'll definitely be tuned in.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. We're gonna show it and all that, and do it. And like I said, we're gonna make the link after we do the show available. So we're gonna talk a little bit about it. But these are pretty phenomenal finds that I thought would be lost, And I am a little jealous that you got a real copy. I saw that little orange bag.
Yeah, I got it. That's at the school. We got that sitting at the school, man. That real copy. Say, man, this is the real deal right here.
I was a little jealous, I was like, wait, is he holding up? Is that the real book?
We got it, man. Sister gave us that hard copy. Yes, sir.
All right, y'all. Well, all right, y'all. God bless. Thanks again. I'll talk to everyone later. We're going to jump off here, and you guys have a beautiful night, all that. And thanks for coming on again.
Definitely.
All right, which button do I push here? I push this button right. There. All right, y'all. Peace out.